We're live. Hey. And I am excited this evening to have another new topic to be talking to y'all about. And I'm sorry I am 1 minute late for my own party. So forgive me for that. I'll give you all a couple minutes to get on here and find it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about obstacles on the carnivore diet. Maybe you're doing keto, maybe you're doing low carb, wherever you are on the spectrum. Obstacles that we faced on the carnivore diet and how we handle them and all of that kind of stuff. So I have some notes. Tony, hello, hello. My husband is reminding me that I'm going to get off at 7:45. Yes. It's going to be a 45-minute live stream tonight because they have bigger fish to fry. The Texas Boys channel trumps the Texas Girls channel, so I have to concede. So anyway, let's see. So we're going to jump into it here. Tony, I hope you had a wonderful day. I have some unsweetened hot cocoa, which is just my raw cacao powder with some hot water. So nothing too fantastic. Oh, wait a minute. There is something fantastic in here. I forgot to tell you. There is my new coconut milk, 6 cents an ounce. I'm pretty excited about it. It's the Silk brand, and there's not any Carrigian in it, and there's no like mono blah, blah, blahs in it. Nothing like that. Nothing scary. So pretty happy about it. And it's cheap. So let's just jump into it a little bit. I'm just going to preface this by saying you're probably going to deal with some hurdles along the way if you're going low carb or you're going keto or carnivore. You're probably going to bump into some troubleshooting, and it's good to have a friend that you can ask questions. That's what I had. I was super blessed to have a friend that had already been carnivore, her and her husband, a year before. So I could text her anytime. And like I said the other night, we just text pictures of our plates to like encourage each other every day. And I know that sounds really corny and cheesy, but I know my husband's doing it also with the guys at work that have gone carnivore. Just snap a quick picture of your plate and send it to whoever your carnivore buddy is, and it just encourages you along the way. But the other thing that I used my carnivore buddy for pretty often was some bumps in the road. So some of my bumps in the road that I faced with carnivore was bathroom problems. I'll just say it like that. So I know a lot of people in the beginning when they're switching from the mainstream standard American diet to low carb or carnivore diet, they have massive diarrhea and they're running to the bathroom for that's totally normal. Within the first couple weeks or so, your body is switching gears, all of your gut bacteria is switching over, and you are going to probably be spending some time in the bathroom if you're coming from a really standard American diet. We weren't coming from the real typical standard American diet. Tony's doing carnivore. Awesome. We were coming from a Whole Foods, highly plant-based diet. So we hadn't been on processed foods for years. So we didn't experience any of those things. We, as in my family of 8, we didn't experience any of that. But I think solely alone, because I have not heard anybody else's testimony in my family that anybody else had any problems with this. And I harassed them when I was going through this. But I thought what I thought was constipation. But as I learned, and it wasn't within the first 2 months, 2.5 months, because remember, I was still having those fruit smoothies. And I do want to clarify, when I say I was having fruit smoothies or my kids were having fruit smoothies, just for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, is it was 1 scoop of a keto protein powder, very clean ingredient, keto protein powder, and no oils or anything like that in it. And then frozen berries. So it was either frozen blueberries, frozen strawberries, or frozen mixed berries, and water. Okay, so a 3 ingredient smoothie: water, frozen berries, and a scoop of keto protein powder, just to give it some flavor, because that protein powder did have some organic stevia in it, and it just kind of gave it a little bit of oomph, like something to make it taste good. And mainly we use the vanilla flavor, but my kids did find, my little ones, there was this snickerdoodle. I'm sure that's not good for you, but it was a snickerdoodle flavor, the same brand. It was Sun Warrior was the brand. Back from our plant-based days, we had used that for years. So we were used to doing smoothies every single day anyway. So we held on to that for the first 2.5 or 3 months. And for the first 2.5 or 3 months, I prepped for eternity. Good evening. For the first 2.5 or 3 months, I didn't have any, what I dubbed constipation. I did not have that. I think because I was still having the smoothie, even if it was just once or twice a week, I still had that. But when I dropped the smoothies, y'all, and the berries, like, I think my body like went into like, I don't know, like confusion mode. And I just had a hard time with digestion. And I kept calling my girlfriend, and I'm like, I don't know. I haven't gone to the bathroom in like whatever it was, say like 5 days. If I've been tracking it, because I'm neurotic like that, I've been tracking it. And, because going from plant-based where you're going like twice a day or more, stuff just runs right through you, to going like once a week virtually, like I was very, very concerned. And, so just making sure that you're drinking all of your water, you're taking all of your electrolytes is really, really important, guys. If you experience either one, the diarrhea or the, I'm going to say constipation, but it's not constipation. I learned later into that first week of experiencing this that it wasn't technically constipation by medical definition, because constipation, as Dr. Barry says, because I looked up these videos, was if you have really, really difficult bowel movements and it's hard and it's rocky and it's dry and it's painful and you're straining to go and you cannot go. Okay, that is medical definition of constipation. Pooping less is not constipation. Pooping less is you poop less. And when you go, you don't have any problems. You just go, but it's just less. So that's what I technically had, was that I was just going to the bathroom less. Even though people can have legitimate constipation on carnivore diet. And I listened to some from Dr. Chafee as well, and how you figure out your bowel issues on carnivore diet is if you are more on the dry, rocky, harder to go side, you just add more fat. Sorry, I have a little dog underneath my chair spinning me here. So add more fat. How much fat? People say to add as much fat as you need until you're going normally. If you overdo it on the fat, you're going to get diarrhea. So you're going to know, and you're going to be like, oh, wow, okay, I ate too much fat. So now it's just going to go right through me. So you're going to be able to judge that for yourself, but it is the fat issue. Also hydration. So both are really important. And I'm going to throw in there, take your electrolytes, make sure you're taking your electrolytes too. So I did experience that for a few weeks. I was just very upset and confused by it. And I watched a lot of videos on it to make sure that nothing in my life was horribly wrong. I did struggle. So this goes into the next topic. So, and I was making sure that nobody else was going through that, which nobody else did. So out of all my little kids, I was very concerned when I was going through that they were going to go through that, and they never did, which they did keep their smoothies. They did keep their frozen berries. So I think Miranda, Yeah, some on topic. I mean, hey, we don't get to 45 years old with 6 kids and a farm and not talk about poop, okay? Poop is a daily topic around here. So anyway, you don't get through one baby and 25 years old and not talk about poop. You just kind of get over it, right? So anyway, nobody else went through the issue, just me. But I'm just throwing that out there because I know the main thing is a lot of people experience the opposite, diarrhea. And I just did not. We didn't experience that. None of us experienced that. So, let's see. Oh, and the other thing is, I think if you don't have a gallbladder, which all of us have a gallbladder, but if you don't have a gallbladder and you are adapting to carnivore, they do recommend that you, if you're having struggles with it, you could take ox bile, and it's just a pill. But if you take ox bile, it will really help your system to convert over to using all of those fats and being able to process all of those fats without a gallbladder. And then eventually, I think it's Dr. Barry, maybe Dr. Chafee too, had said, like, what happens is for most people, your body forms like a pseudo gallbladder, like I'm saying the wrong word, but like a separate little functional gallbladder kind of. It's not like your first one, but it will be able to process. That's what happens for most people. They don't have to stay on ox bile, but it might just be helpful in the beginning if you don't have a gallbladder. I know that's a pretty common thing, and you're having trouble with digesting the fats. Once you get fat adapted, you should be totally fine. Let's see. The next thing, I have so many notes here. Okay, the next thing is going to be crazy high ketones. And again, my poor girlfriend, I was like texting her. We had gotten the keto strips, the ketone strips. I forget what they're called. I can't remember the brand that we got. But anyway, it comes in a little black jar. It's like $10 for like, I don't know. We still have tons of them, like 200 or something strips, maybe 500. I don't even remember. But so we got these little strips because I started thinking that I knew about ketones, and ketones don't matter, y'all. Okay. Just eat meat and you're going to be fine. Eat meat, drink water. If you're doing eggs or dairy and other stuff, whatever, but eat meat, make that your main course, drink your water, and you don't have to worry about ketones. Your body's going to adjust, and eventually you're going to come to an optimal body weight and composition, and everything's going to level out and be good. It might take you 3 years. It might take you 10 years to get there, but eventually your body is going to normalize and you're going to be a healthy, functional human being, which we all want to be again, right? So, so these ketone strips that I got, again, I went into it with like half the amount of information. And I thought in the beginning that our ketones, me and my husband were testing, we're like, oh, we're at 0. We're doing great. Well, and then we learned, like maybe into a week of having these strips that were like, oh, 0 means nothing. Like we're not producing any ketones at all. Like what the heck, you know? So then I'm watching Bella, the steak and butter girl and everything. And she's saying butter and, you know, so I started adding more butter to my diet every day. And my ketones, I don't know why. And I thought that it was related to the butter, but then later I took out the butter totally and my ketones stayed crazy, meaning like 16 plus, like, which would be like a state of medical ketosis. And I don't know why they were that high. It didn't make any sense. And I was just like really freaked out because they say that it's like not good. Like, you know, 0.5 is a good happy ketone level. You get into like 3 or 4, that's a great ketone level. You get up to like 7 or 8. Whoa, you're like in deep ketosis. Most people can't get to level 8 without like a doctor guiding them, helping them into deep ketosis, right? But maybe some people can, right? But it's usually like harder to achieve for most people. 16 is like crazy off the map. Okay. I stayed at 16. It would not come down. And it was like a couple weeks and I was frantic. I was like looking at like all these videos and there's nothing really on ketone levels that high because I think it's just kind of like a strange, weird thing. But it goes into the point, Miranda. Oh, did I already say hi to you? I'm sorry, Miranda. I got distracted. But it goes into the point that sometimes when you are adjusting to carnivore, well, not sometimes, a lot of times people say when you are adjusting to carnivore, things are going to get worse before they get better. So your body is kind of throwing this massive curveball and you're like, whoa, what is happening here? Because all of my foods that I normally ate are all gone. And now I'm doing this. And when you test, this is coming from, I think it was Danny Conway that was saying this. When you test too early and too soon into the carnivore diet, you might get some crazy, weird readings. And it's just because a lot of times things get worse before they level off and get better. So the best thing to do is to be consistent, give yourself enough time. I took out the butter and my ketones eventually came down to like 8 and I was really excited about that. I felt fine. I didn't feel like dizzy and like I was going to pass out. I was reading all these, things to watch out for. And I know that I didn't have, I forget what the diabetic symptoms are, but it wasn't that because there's like a small percentage of people that would be like, whatever, they might produce some crazy amount of ketones because they're type 2 diabetic and they didn't know it. It wasn't that. So it was just my body adjusting to life, just to a new way of eating. And I had removed the berries. So it was just meat and eggs and butter. And I think it just needed some time to adjust. And it did. And it adjusted. And now my ketones are like, a lot of times they are like 0 in the mornings. I don't test all the time. Maybe like once a month we might pee on a strip and test it. But it's like low, like 0.5, maybe a 1, maybe a 3, very rarely a 3 now. And it seems like I cycle in and out of ketosis just naturally. Like I'll be a 0 always in the morning. I'm totally at 0. I don't have any ketones going on. And then if I exercise or something, I'm not going to have any ketones going on because my body just used them up. So it's just kind of like a natural, very low ketosis, just kind of coming in and out of it and not anything hardcore. So just wanted to throw that at you because that scared me. Because I was still walking, I had all this energy and I wanted to walk and I was like scared that like I'm walking out by the pond and it's summertime. So it's Texas and it's hot and it's like over 100 degrees and I want to walk because I feel good and I have energy. But then I'm like, but if my ketones are at 16, am I going to like pass out? And like, if I pass out here, is this so stupid? Like your doubt. Okay. Next obstacle is the doubt in your mind. Okay. And I think we can be really good at this as women is that little voice of doubt in the back of your mind saying, this is too extreme. You're doing something too much. You're gonna I have a heart attack. You're gonna hurt yourself. This isn't good, and there were several times, especially laying in bed at night, that or if I would get cravings. I told you I got like maybe, I don't know how many months in, I went through like these crazy food cravings at night and like crazy hunger pains at night. It made no sense at all. And I would have all of these feelings of doubt, like, just like, what are you doing? this is too extreme. Why don't I just like it just in my own mind, why don't I just eat some vegetables? Just different things like that, like would just come to my mind. But I think that's just I don't know, we've been brainwashed our whole entire life to eat this certain way, or else we're not going to be healthy humans, right? If we don't have a plate full of every color of the rainbow every night, then we're just going to like shrivel up and die, which is not true. I mean, you can look at, every American Indian tribe, North American Indian tribe, and what they ate, and it was predominantly meat. And you can look at pioneers and people that explored America. You can look at people that missionaries, all different people that were living like rogue type lives, and they killed meat and they ate it. And if they came across some berries, they might pick at them a little bit when they were in season, when it happened to be. But aside from that, like, they didn't have a full course plate of like every color of the rainbow every night. And they certainly didn't have broccoli and cauliflower because they're man-made vegetables that weren't even here. I forget, I'm going to mess up my stat if I say it, but they're totally man-made. They didn't even exist. Broccoli, cauliflower, all that stuff, that wasn't even a thing. Okay, so we designed that. We made that. That's a human-made vegetable. So that doesn't exist in nature is what I'm saying. Okay, so some of my other things that I experienced, early on, bladder infections. Very early on, like within the first 2 months, I was thinking, man, I haven't suffered from bladder infections. I don't get bladder infections, but I was getting like the early symptoms of bladder infections. And it was like almost every week, it would just start to build up and build up. And I would feel all that pressure, like a bladder infection was going to come on, and like the pain, So I got a prebiotic. It was, I can't remember who makes it. It might have been Garden of Eden, something like that, makes a woman's prebiotic, like vaginal health thing. So I got that supplement and it came within a couple days. I ordered it on Amazon and that did the trick. I just stayed on that and I took that every day, and that seemed to do it. But for those first couple of months, I kept struggling with feeling like I was going to get a bladder infection, which I was having a considerable amount. Amy Anderson, I was having a considerable amount of sugar in those smoothies too. I mean, when you consider, I've always had smoothies, but I've always had tons of food to kind of like dilute all that sugar. I don't know. It was just sugar on sugar. I don't even know if that would make sense, but I'm not sure why that happened. But after a couple of months, that went away. And I would be curious to know if that went away when I did away with the smoothies. That would be an interesting thing to know. But my kids did realize that. They're like, Mom, when we drink a smoothie, we're drinking like so much. Like you can put in like 2 or 3 cups of berries in a smoothie with water and a keto powder, right? 3 ingredient smoothie is what I'm talking about, right? You're drinking like all of this, right? But if you just get a little cup of berries, you're eating each individual berry, you're eating less. So it's what they were saying is it's easier to drink berries because you're drinking a lot and you're drinking a lot of sugar, versus if you just get a cup of frozen fruit and you're sitting there with a spoon and picking through them, you're going to eat a lot less berries that way than drinking them. I just thought that was a pretty good point that the kids were making. And we have been off of smoothies like 100%. Everybody off of smoothies since, I want to say, summer. I went off of them first, like after the first couple months, and then the kids held on to them for a little while, even my big kids. And then it would be like some weeks they would have a smoothie, some weeks they wouldn't. I mean, this was from like every day for the past Oh my, y'all, we had smoothies when we came down here. I mean, and before that, so 10 years we've been down here, we had smoothies every day. They were always part of my go-to mom meals. And and then eventually it just fizzled out. And then once in a while, like it would peak back up again, and they would be like, "Oh, I want a smoothie," like random, and then it would disappear. But we have not had them. We switched over to the keto ice cream in the summertime with all the eggs, and they love that. And we haven't used our Ninja smoothie machine for, I would say, all summer. I don't think that they used it all summer. And I don't think we're going back. I still have a couple big cans of that expensive Sun Warrior keto protein powder. And I don't think we're ever going to use it. With my green powder that I still have. And that was expensive too. Which goes into another obstacle with carnivore, especially if you're a mom, is that the guilt, the food guilt. Because if you're like me, I had a big pantry. I had a lot of foods prepped. I had 50-pound containers, 60-pound containers of all the different kinds of rice and flour and things. I had all of our tomato sauce and potatoes and green beans and veggies and home canned stuff. I had tons of everything prepped. I mean, we were prepped. We had it. The pantry was full. It was a success. I worked on it for a few years. I filled it up. I completely filled it up. I even added a 2-lane center aisle, filled that all the way up. And in the early days of carnivore, going into that pantry would give me anxiety. And I shared that with my girlfriend. It's very, very important. If you don't have a friend, and husbands are great, but there's nothing like a woman, because a woman gets the woman brain thing. And so I would say get into a group. If you get somebody that you can very easily, I know in Bella's group, they're accessible throughout the day or whatever, just somebody that you can randomly throw your thoughts at, because it's really important. YouTube is wonderful. I washed myself in YouTube videos like hours every single day, but having a real live person that I could call and say, when I go into the pantry, my heart starts racing. Like I feel so guilty, and I don't even know where to start, and I don't know what to get rid of, and I don't know when to get rid of it and how to get rid of it. And I got overwhelmed, and my girlfriend's like, just close the door. Don't worry about it. Just don't even worry about it. You're just starting this. You'll figure it out as you go. So just, and that she was so great like that. Like even with, like I said, my green powder, I'm like, I'm just so scared not to drink it. I've been drinking it for so many years, and I'm just scared. She's like, keep it and drink it if that's going to be. And I did. And then, and the same with the smoothies. I'm like, but I'm still having a smoothie. She's like, that's fine. Keep your smoothie. Just keep it. That's not carnivore, but just keep it. If that's your safe place, that's where you need to be right now, that's fine. It's berries and water. Like you're fine. You're totally fine. And some keto powder or whatever. But anyway, yeah, super low sugar, low carb. So let's see what else. Talked about bladder infections. That was weird. And that just went away. I didn't even finish. I think I got 2 bottles of that. I don't think I finished that second bottle that second month. So it just, fears and doubts creeping in. I talked about that, in your own mind, especially at night when you're laying there, and especially when you're having cravings. I think our mind is a scary place, and it can just manipulate us so much because we want to go back to our old ways. So however we can be convinced of that in our own mind, whatever that is, if that is that for health reason, I better just eat some vegetables. I mean, my goodness, my stomach feels like it's inside out right now. Like I better have some vegetables, what am I doing? Yeah, so that is a real thing. And let's see, what do I have here? Yeah, and then yeah, I talked about that my intense nighttime hunger pains. That was like a few months in, and I think that that fixed and healed itself when I did a 4 day fast. So it was funny how things lined up for that to happen. Was that I was struggling with that at night, and my husband, nobody else struggled with that. Everybody else was full, totally happy, totally content with their food. Nobody else was feeling anything, but just they were all good. Everybody was good. But I went through that, and then at that same time, Jeff DeProsperous, who if you haven't checked out his channel, he has a channel called Blessings on My Journey, and he has stage 4 liver cancer, but he's on the path to healing, and he's doing traditional treatments as well as a carnivore diet and a lot of other things. It's amazing. He's a wealth of information. So if you have anybody in your life who is fighting cancer and they're open to different ideas and approaches, he does a lot of different therapies and things. But he also has implemented the carnivore diet. I forget how many months in he is on that now, maybe a year in on that. And he's doing traditional treatment too as well. So anyway, they were doing a 5-day fast, I think, water fast, like in camaraderie together with Jeff DeProsperous. Fasting is part of his cancer regimen too, that he does once a month fast. So I was like, well, I could do that. I have a whiner down here. Come here. Come here. And she's wet because she just had a bath. Okay, you're going to get my lap wet, but that's okay. So I was like, well, let me do that. I haven't done a fast for a long time. I want to do that. So I did the fast. Now, mine was a little bit of a cheat because I kept my coffee in the morning, which there's no sugar in it, but it wasn't technically a water fast then. I had coffee in the morning, and I had my flavored Relight twice a day. So that probably doesn't count technically as a water fast then, but it counted in my book. And I made it to 4 days, and then I started to feel really, really weak, and I needed to eat. But what happened during those 4 days, first of all, I felt amazing the first 3 days. The second day, I spent all day long painting the back deck, staining the back deck, like maybe the third day too. I stained a little bit the back deck, but by the 4th day, I was done. I had no energy. I felt like I was going to pass out. I had gotten to the end of my rope, and so that was it. But I did learn just this week that technically fasting doesn't necessarily start until, I forget who the doctor was. It wasn't a doctor. He was a scientist guy. I forget who was interviewing him. I think it might have been Dr. Baker. More recent interview Dr. Baker did with a guy. He's in New Zealand. He's a scientist guy, and I can't remember his name. But he said technically fast and medically, like in the medical books, fasting you're not by definition fasting until you hit the 72-hour point without food. So he said, now I didn't know that because I have heard the word fasting thrown around so much, like, oh, you could do a 15-hour fast or a 16-hour fast. And that's what I kept like saying for myself, like, oh, you naturally go into like a 15-hour or 16-hour fast because you stop eating at like, say, 6 o'clock at night or whatever it is, 8 o'clock at night, and then you sleep all night, and then you might not eat your first meal until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So then that's a fast. And this scientist guy said, that's not by definition medically a fast. That's just you didn't eat because you're still full. You're probably not even hungry at that point. Your body's not in a fasting state. So he said technically at the 73 3-hour mark is when autophagy starts, and I forget, you start to release I'm going to say bone marrow, not bone marrow. I can't think of it right now. I'll come back to it. But anyway, all the wonderful, awesome things, stem cells, you start to release stem cells, just a lot of really awesome healing, epic stuff starts to happen at the 73-hour mark. So by the time you get to the 72-hour mark, technically then from 72 hours on, you are technically by definition medically fasting. So anyway, there's that. You always learn something new. I'm always learning something new. It's like every week, it's every other day. I'm just saying something to my husband. I'm like, oh, I learned this. Oh, I learned that. Like, that is so cool. And I mean, most of it is like way above my head. A lot of it is just like medical stuff. But I love listening to it. And I think that's the really cool thing about this carnivore lifestyle, is that there's so much, there's so many people in the medical field, and there's so much research and documentation on keto. And I mean, they have years of documentation on the positive effects of keto and ketosis and, a ketogenic diet, on autism, on, epilepsy, on dementia, just so many different things. It was Dr. Bright the other day was saying to, I think it was Nutrition by Judy. She was doing an interview with Dr. Bright, and they both said, why does she eat a high fat carnivore diet? And she said, because I'm trying to not have Alzheimer's or dementia. And I forget who it was that was interviewing her. I watched so many things, y'all. I think it was Nutrition by Judy. And she said, me too. That's my goal. And I was like, oh, wow, that is really amazing. So I just love listening to all the medical stuff, was my point. Like, I'll turn on Dr. Barry's live stream every week and I'll just have it playing. And I don't understand all the different tests that he's going through and all the blood panels and how he's like telling these people all these like medical things to test and medicine to take and not take and how to wean off of things. And, oh no, don't wean off of that. And I don't know all of that stuff, but it's fascinating to me. And the same with Dr. Chafee. He does his live streams and I will just listen to all of his medical information. And I think that's amazing. And there's the other girl, I think her name is Mitch. I think it's like Jennifer Mitch or something like that. And boy, if you want to just feel super confident about choosing to be on a carnivore diet, look up her. I think it's Jenny Mitch. Her whole channel is dedicated to blood tests, and she just does blood test after blood test, and not just blood tests, but like every kind of test that you can imagine, every kind of medical test on herself. And she goes through all of her results and explains all of them. And it's fascinating. So again, it's not like my thing that I'm going to be able to like remember all of that and spit it all out, but there's little bits and pieces, and there's like these little nuggets that you can learn and hold on to. And you're like, wow, that's so neat. Like, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that the kidneys work like that. I didn't know that this would really help heal kidney disease. Like, oh, okay, well, now I got that information, or I didn't, whatever it is, it's just really cool. Or like with the cancer or dementia or, Asperger's and autism, like we all have people in our life. I think it's 1 out of 4. It's probably more than that by now. Kids have some type of autism, autistic spectrum, and it's crazy. So it's just so powerful to have some of this information. So anyway, I will hush up now. I wanted to go through them. That's all. That was all my problems that I had on carnivore, and they're all over. They're all resolved. They were all short-lived. They were all temporary, very, very temporary. So I just encourage y'all, and your problems won't be my problems, and my problems won't be your problems. So don't just be like, oh my, she had this issue, I'm going to have that. You might not. You totally might not have that. So it's just fun to share this stuff, because you just never know who you might encourage by doing that. Okay, so I got 4 minutes and then I gotta pop off of here. Miranda said, I'm so glad you mentioned the UTIs, because that's one of the reasons I quit last year. I kept getting them whenever I tried carnivore. Yeah, I got the probiotic. I think it's Garden of Eden, Garden of Life. And I know that's not the perfect company or whatever, but it's the vaginal health probiotic for women. And I took it every single day. And I don't know if it was my overconsumption of berries. So if you're ketovore and you're overdoing it in the berries and the sugar, maybe that's what threw my balance off. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't journal it, so I don't know. I just know that I didn't make it through that second bottle and they just went away. But I did do away with the smoothies. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence or whatever. But if you have that, I mean, yeah, I would. If you're running into that bump in the road, the Garden of Eden women's vaginal health. It's like white with some pink on it on the bottle, and it's a probiotic for your vaginal health, and it totally did the trick. Oh, Amy Anderson says she takes that. Amy Anderson says she takes that and she loves it. Yeah, so let's see. Thank you for talking about the doubts and the fears. I have that about not consuming polyphenols in vibrant fruits and vegetables. Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, when you've been, like, I don't want to say brainwashed, but we've just been fed this certain thing our whole life, and then we don't do it. And also, I think being a mom and then having my kids do it to a certain degree. Like I said, they still have berries. We call their diet the bear diet, because they have all the meats and they have berries and they have honey. So we tell them they're on the bear diet. So I want to make them up little t-shirts that say, like, I don't know, something about a bear diet or something. I just think that would be so cute, because it's like, you know, they're not lion diet, but they're definitely a bear diet, because they eat lots of honey, sometimes lots, honey and berries and their meat. But yeah, there's these little doubts, sometimes big doubts. And I think our minds are a crazy thing. And especially with women, our minds can be a crazy thing. But I would just Google, like, randomly, like, what did the North American Indians eat? And then I look at it and I'm like, oh, 90% of all these different tribes, they ate. Like, yeah, they dried out some berries. Yeah, eventually some of these tribes grew some squash and beans, like, sometimes down the road. But if they grew in whatever, yeah, eventually they learned how to grow some corn or something. But they didn't have it like, it's just not the same as what we have in our mind. And then we watch these pioneer shows and they just go out into the woods for years and they kill meat and they eat meat and they're fine, you know. And I don't even have to go into the Eskimos and all the other, you know, remote, like, indigenous tribes and stuff. Like, they're fine. They didn't need like their whole plate.gov to make them, you know, a healthy human. And we're so good at making healthy humans in the US, right? I mean, oh my, our population is just so healthy. Nobody else. Heather says, did any of the boys have UTIs? No, nobody else had it, just me. I don't know that it was a full-on UTI. It just felt like that early phase of it coming, like the pressure and the pain, and it was like it was going to happen. And I was like, oh no. So I ordered the prebiotic and the probiotic, and then that was it. So anyway, That was it. Well, I got to go, y'all. We will meet back here tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We'll have a new topic. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And go listen to my Texas boys. They're going to be doing a live on the Amish farmer. So talk to y'all soon. Have a blessed night. Bye-bye.